Welcome back. Today, I will be showing you the deck list for one of my current favorite decks to play, Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis. For those of you that don't know, Kynaios and Tiro is 4 mana. That is a red, green, white, and blue for a legendary creature, human soldier. That's a 2/8. They read, at the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Each player may put a land card from his or her hand onto the battlefield, then each opponent who didn't draws a card. The commander might seem pretty group huggy, but if you read it closely, you get more value than your opponent. Let's start with the land base. We're running 38 lands. We're running a darker waste. It is Spanish, signed, and has a misprint with a white back. So I don't know how to put that in here, if it changes the price at all. But, just letting you know. Have an Azorius Chancery, a Commander Staple Command Tower, Evolving Wilds, Exotic Orchard, because we're running 4 colors, unless they're playing mono black or mono colorless. This will tap for at least one of the colors we need. Forbidden Orchard. You can use this politically to give opponents blockers against someone else. 5 Forests. Frontier Bivouac. I think that's how you pronounce it. Hallowed Fountain. 4 Islands. A Jungle Shrine. A Croson Verge. 5 Mountains. A Mystic Monastery. 5 Plains. A Rupture Spire. A Sacred Foundry, a Seaside Citadel, a Celestia Sanctuary, a Steam Vents, a Stirring Wildwood, a Terramorphic Expanse, and a Windswept Heath. Now, on to the artifacts. We have an Assault Suit, so we can hand Kynaios and Tiro or one of our creatures around the table. Chromatic Lantern. I mean, we're running more than 3 colors, so it's pretty obvious that we should have this because it's a nice mana fixer. Commander Sphere, again, mana fixer, and when we have too much mana, we just sacrifice it to draw a card. Darksteel Ingot, an indestructible mana rock. Ghirapur Orrery. Some cards in this deck are pretty group huggy, like this one. Lets each player play an additional land on their turn, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if they have no cards on hand, they draw 3. I mean, it can help us too, and that's mostly why it's in here. Temple Bell. Again, another group huggy card. An Adventurer's Journal, in case we end up drawing too many cards, and it will help keep us alive, because at the beginning of our upkeep, we gain a life for each card in our hand. Next, the creatures. Avenger of Zendikar, because, in case you didn't notice, Kynaios and Tiro lets you put a land from your hand into play. So, if we get lands every turn, we can trigger landfall every turn and make a giant army of plants. Blazing Archon to defend us a little bit. Etched Oracle. I know it's not the best card, but typically we're playing this with a Sunburst with 4+1/+1 counters on it. So we can basically just Ancestral Vision whenever we want after that. Ethereum Horn Sorcerer to cascade into something. Hopefully something amazing and not a counterspell. And then we can also return it to our hand and play it again to cascade into something hopefully better. Hopefully not a counterspell. They're running Asperia Supreme Judge to kind of deter people from attacking us, because if they do, we draw cards. Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs. He's in here as kind of another attack deterrent if they're coming in on the ground. They're coming in the air, he's pretty useless. Kynaios, God of Storms. He's in here so you can either bolt something or draw a card. Lavinia of the 10th. It's mostly in here to like detain like all their tokens or stuff. Whatever. Luminate Primordial. So when it enters battlefield, we can swords each opponent's. Well, we get a swords to plowshares for each opponent. Managorger Hydra to hopefully prevent our opponents from casting too many spells, or else it'll become gigantic. Progenitor Mimic, so that we can clone anything. Most of the time, I either clone like Luminate Primordial or Zerta Ancient or Windborn Muse. But if I'm playing against an artifact deck, I'll make it become a copy of Rex Sage. Rattleclaw Mystic. I think it's our only. Wait, no, it's one of our few creature mana rocks. Reclamation Sage to get rid of pesky artifacts and enchantments. Reflector Mage to unsummon one of their guys and prevent them from casting it until our next turn. Pretty good. Rubble Hulk, so we can either just have a big beefy guy or kill someone when they least suspect it, or at least deal a bunch of damage. So Vala Explorer returned, another kind of a group hug card. It'll let us gain life and add forests, well, green to our mana pool for each player that reveals a non-land card from the top of their library. Typically, in like a 3-player or 4-player game, I typically get 3 green and 3 life off of it each time I tap it. Somberwald Sage. It'll help us cast our creatures. Veteran Explorer, typically what you want people to do is kill this when they first see it, hopefully in the early turns of the game, so that you can accelerate yourself, but also lets each opponent accelerate themselves, which is kind of the bad part. Windborn Muse, it's one of the ghostly prison type effects in here. Helps to deter attacks, unless you're playing against a Voltron deck. Zertot Ancient, it's a mana doubler, but for everyone. Arcane Denial, I think, no, it's one of our 2 counter spells in this deck. A Beast Within, destroy problem whatevers, hopefully giving them a less useful 3/3 green beast. Boros Charm, so we can either finish off a player that's low on life, protect our stuff from a board wipe, or hopefully, like, if we Blood Rush the Rubble Hulk onto something and they don't block, we can Boros Charm and hopefully kill them. Ceasefire, I know it's not amazing, but it can basically be used as kind of a white remand, kind of, on creature spells. Because, like, they go to play something, in response, they can't play creature spells this turn. Not the best, but it's okay. Or you can just play it during their upkeep, if, like, they're a creature heavy deck and they're, like, about to go off or something. A Chaos Warp, again, to get rid of problem permanents, or one of our own lands if it's late in the game, hopefully getting us something else. Oblation, again, see Chaos Warp. Path to Exile, we can use it to get rid of any creature for 1 white mana. And then you search the library for a basic land, put into play tapped. The basic land's probably going to be less useful than whatever we got rid of. A Reigns of Power, we can either use this as a sort of fog, or if our opponents have a way better board than us, we can use it as a kill spell to gain control of their token army and kill them. Swan Song, our other counter spell in here, less useful than Arcane Denial, because that counters any spell, but this is still good. It's 1 blue to counter an enchantment, instant, or sorcery. Downside, they get a bird, but chances are if you're using this, the bird is probably less useful than what they were going to cast. Swords to Plowshares, so we can get rid of stuff. Sylvan Reclamation, so that we can get rid of artifacts and enchantments. It's pretty good. Or if we don't need it, we basic land cycle it. Ancestral Mask, to buff up a creature. I know there's not a ton of enchantments in here, but it's basically a guaranteed. Oh wait, no, it's each other enchantment, so it's not a guaranteed. Okay, I was gonna say it's a guaranteed +2/+2, but I guess not. Faith's Fetters. I see your Planeswalker. It'd be a shame if you were to not be able to use it. Or replace Planeswalker with the name of any permanent. It's pretty good. Fever Visions. a group slug card, kind of. It lets players draw a card during their end step, but if they're your opponent and they have 4 more cards in hand, they get shocked. Pretty good. Forced Fruition. It might seem like kind of a group hug card, because it is, but hopefully we can use it to kill our opponents by having them just draw a lot of cards and maybe have them deck themselves. Ghostly Prison, Protection, Journey to Nowhere, it's spot removal on a creature, Martial Law, so we can detain the biggest threat on the board, O-Ring, to get rid of anything we want that's not a land, Propaganda, again, protection, Restic Study for card draw, because, well, unless your opponent has a ton of mana, then you won't get any cards off of Restic Study, which is bad. But it's also good because that means they're paying that means they won't be able to play as many things because they're paying the mana to prevent you from drawing. Rites of Flourishing, another group hug kind of card. That'll let players draw additional cards and play additional lands. Wild Evocation. You gotta be careful with this because the opponent, the player that goes after you in the turn cycle is going to get this effect first, and it could either, like, it could be really devastating. They could end up, like, pulling a Wrath God or something, or a board wipe or something that will just destroy everything. Cultivate, so we can ramp. Drain Power, again, so we can ramp. And, like, if they have something out, well, it can basically force people to, it can basically force people's hands. So that, like, they don't want to do something, but you play this so that you will gain all their mana. So in response, they do something. Hopefully at a time they didn't want to. So it's not as effective. Fathom Troll. It'll get us some cards. Hopefully good ones. Kadama's Reach, another ramp spell. Tempt with Discovery. A ramp spell for everyone, but your opponents have it optional. But for each opponent that does get a land this way, you get an additional land. And it's better than traditional ramp spells because this gets you any land. So any land you want. Doesn't have to be basic, although it can be. Treacherous Terrain. If it's late enough in the game and our opponents have gotten a lot of stuff off of a lot of lands off of Kynaios and Tiro, we can use it as a kill spell. Otherwise, we can just basic land cycle it if it's really early in the game. Urban Evolution. It's just a good card. Vandal Blast. Because we typically don't like our opponent's artifacts. Because we'd rather only have ours in play. Elspeth Tiro. Has either a board wipe, creature production, or life gain. Typically all of them. Gideon, Champion of Justice. If he survives long enough, he can become a win condition. And Jace, Architect of Thought. So it's a little bit of protection when you plus him. When you minus him, it's card selection. It's kind of like a mini Factor Fiction, except they don't go. The pile you don't select goes on your goes on the bottom of your library and not your graveyard. And the ultimate, which is hopefully what you want to get him to, can sometimes just win games. And that is my Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis deck tech. And yep, there we go. Oh, and for the Dark Messiah videos, I just want you to guys leave in the comments your thoughts on if I should just continue doing one chapter or do 2 chapters, or if I should just play the game the rest of the way through and upload a multiple-hour video, which would probably take a while. So I'm probably not going to do that last one. Anyways, see you later.